Hey everyone, it is Card Cafe here with an update for Bastion Accord. Now that set 13 is here, and more importantly with set 13 we have a very important promo. Little Owl Boy is here, the card that really just makes this deck incredibly strong. Thankfully we didn't have to wait too long for it. It is here now, and with it there are actually some pretty significant changes to this deck that I have made, so I wanted to kind of do an update to the video that we made from set 12. I'm not going to go too in-depth with any cards that are the same from the last one, so if you want to hear me talk more in depth about like Bastion Accord himself, and I'd recommend watching that video, it's on the channel still. Feel free to check that out. We're going to mainly be focusing on the new cards and kind of just going over what the deck looks like now, because this is pretty different. So let's get started. Firstly, no change here. Ride line is the same. Surprise, surprise. Everyone here knows what this does. It's been here since the beginning of the overdress cycle. Right on top of the 0, you draw a card if you're going second. If you ride on top of the grade 1, reveal 2 grade 3s, call the top pair to your deck. Right on top of the grade 2, reveal 3 grade 3s, draw a card. Simple, pretty outdated, but we don't have anything better. So that's that. Now for the Bastion count, this is also still the same. We are doing the full extra copies of Bastion Accord and still 4 copies of Mr. Prime Time unchanged here. Bastion Accord is still just your main card you want to be going into in the early and the mid game. Gives your grade 3s drive checks if your opponent's at grade 3, gives your front row resist and 5k extra power. Just still really strong card. And then 4 copies of Prime Time, just because you need to be discarding Bastions to get that drive check on the rear guard, and he's still a really good finisher. If your opponent's at 5, he's probably the better card to go into to end the game than Accord, because he gets 5 attacks, gets triple drive, and gives all your grade 3 rear guards 10,000 power, provided you drive check a grade 3, which is not hard to do in this deck. So unchanged, still a good lineup. I am still absolutely refuse to run original Bastion. I will not do it. You could not pay me to do it. Every person I've seen running it just ends up calling it as a dead rear guard, and it looks really sad, so no thank you. But anyway, let's talk about some new stuff. So first, we are running 3 copies of the new triple rare generic grade 3 from set 13. This card is really good in Bastion. It has a few different effects. Firstly is when it's placed on rear guard circle or on the guardian circle, if you either are on a grade 4 Vanguard, so it's the Bastion Prime, or if you reveal a Bastion Prime, a grade 4, from your hand, you can either give 2 rear guards boost if he was placed on the rear guard, or you get a 15,000 shield for this card. So it's a 15k shield on Guardian Circle, and then is your new giving boost to the rear guard. I know a lot of people run 4 of this, and I can see why I was running 4, but honestly, I was finding that a lot of the time you've got your owls in the back row that we'll talk about later. And so giving the boost isn't super necessary. And his second skill, which is when discarded for ride or for stride, you draw a card. But the discard for ride is only if you're riding into grade 3. So it's only a good discard target once for the ride line instead of all 3. If it was all 3, I'd definitely run 4. But we're not striding in this deck, and you only get that 1 instance of drawing a card off discarding it for ride. So I kind of like the 3 copies better. But if you want to run 4, that's totally fine. I understand. Next change from the original is we are back up to 4 copies of the original boy himself, Alden. I alluded to this in the last deck profile for this deck, that as soon as we got the owl, this was back to 4, and it's a pretty simple reason why. We now have countercharge, so this is back to 4. Alden is just a strong card. He's been in this deck since the beginning. Every time he attacks, he gets 5k, and then you can draw 2 cards when he's placed on the rear guard for a Counterblast 2, Soul Blast 1, and call a grade 3. So it sounds like a pretty heavy cost, and it is, but drawing 2 cards is very strong still in this game, and calling a grade 3 to the rear guard is something you were going to do anyway. So not a huge deal, but we have countercharge now, so this is just immediately back to 4 copies. Next change, we are running 3 copies of Form Up, O Chosen Knights. This is an order, again, we did not have the ability to run before because we didn't have countercharge, but now we do. So he is in here. It's a normal order, so when you play it, you Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, and then depending on how many grade 3 rear guards that you have, you get to do the following. If you have 2 or more grade 3 rear guard, or grade 3 units, excuse me, that's an important distinction, units. 2 or more grade 3 units, choose a unit, gets 5,000 power. 3 units, you get to draw a card. And 4 units, you get +1 drive. Really strong card. It's not hard at all to have 4 grade 3 units because obviously Bastion is a grade 3, and then it's easy to have just 2 grade 3 rear guards and a grade 3 in the back row. So pretty easy to get the full effect live. You get 5,000 power to something, you get a draw card, and then your Bastion now has triple drive. So 5 drive checks between Bastion and then giving the rear guard twin drive. Very strong card. We have the ability to pay the cost for it, so we definitely now run this at 3. And then unchanged, 4 copies of this card. This boy from set 12, still a staple and probably gonna be a staple as long as Accord is what we are playing. He's a very simple card. He counts as 2 grade 3s in your hand for revealing for your ride line, which is great. And then also on rear guard, as long as you have a Bastion Vanguard, he gets 10,000 power and he's also a 10k shield. Simple to effective. He's a 28k beater with Bastion Accord, 10k shield in your hand. Versatile, strong card with like simple effects. Also still running 1 Formidable Doll, no surprise there. This is a really strong card in Bastion that you just search for Bastion Prime and put it into your hand and call a grade 3, or you can call 2 different grade 3s to the rearguard circle. Strong card, we really like it, so definitely still has a spot in this deck. All right, but it's been long enough. Let's talk about the boy, the best card in the deck, the owl, the sapient owl, the promo we needed so badly. So why is this card so good? It's got a couple of skills that we need to talk about. The first is a continuous skill in your hand, on the rearguard circle, and in the trigger zone. So if you drive check it or damage check it. This counts as a grade 3 as long as you have a Bastion Vanguard and gets 2,000 power. So on rearguard, it's a 10k booster or attacker, which is really important because it makes good numbers with your other grade 3s. So you're hitting for 23s, 28s, 33s, 38s because it's a 10k booster. So we like that a lot. But then also, more importantly, it is a grade 3 in any of those zones. So in your hand, it counts as a grade 3 if you have to reveal it for your red line skills. On the rear guard, counts as a grade 3 for your Form Up Chosen Knight skill. And then also for drive checking it, if you're on Bastion Prime during your triple drive, counts. So just excellent skill right around. Great utility card for that reason. But that's not all it does. The second skill is when he's placed on rear guard, choose a grade 3 or greater card from your drop zone, put it into your soul. Your Vanguard gets 5,000 power. And if the card that you put into your soul is Bastion, has Bastion in its name, countercharge 1 if you have not countercharged already. Fantastic card. It's the countercharge that we desperately needed. It powers up your Vanguard so it's not just hitting basic numbers. And like we already talked about, is a 10k Vanguard. This card is just doing so much. It's a great booster, it countercharges, powers up your Vanguard, counts as a grade 3. I don't have to explain why this card is good. If you've seen this deck, you know what this deck does. You can see all the things that this just really helps as a huge consistency buff and utility card. 4 of, going to be a 4 of forever, no matter what Bastion looks like, I think. So you gotta run 4 of this card. Thankfully, it was just a box topper. So one of the better ways it could have been released as a promo. So we'll take that. 4 copies. And then I'm not really gonna spend a lot of time talking about this. We know this, we all know and love it. 3 Nation Perfect Guards, 1 Sanctitude. This isn't changing, this is never going to change. Even though we run Prime, this has almost certainly been used by the time you would ever go into Prime. And if you are going into Bastion Prime, you you're not going past that turn. If you're going into Bastion Prime, you're winning that turn. So it doesn't matter that you can't use this if you're on Bastion Prime. Not really much to talk about there. Instead, let's talk about the thing that has really changed here, which is the trigger lineup. So we are now running 8 crits. So gone up 1 from the 7 that we were running before. Yeah, crits are crits. Everyone knows what crits do. And just putting out more of them just helps with this deck's aggression, especially where we have up to 5 drive checks on our turn. So 8 crits. But the big change really here is we are running the 3 front triggers now as opposed to draw triggers. So I think I've talked about this a couple of times going into set 13, is right now the 20k shield that front triggers give is just more valuable than the draw effect from draw triggers because of how scary numbers are right now in the meta between Youthberg and Jejeweled especially. Plus this deck now has a lot of draw power between Form Up and Alden being back to 4, so the draws are less necessary and we can get away with running just 3 fronts. Plus checking it offensively, never bad too, just making even better numbers for your grade 3s if all 3 of them are getting 10,000 power. But really it's for the 20k shield. The 20k shield is just so important. I talked about this with Nirvana. Any deck right now that I can get away with running these, I am running these just for the 20k shield. And the slight change we did make in the heal triggers is we are now doing 1 copy of the restand effect heal. So if a rear guard or unit, on your opponent's side restands, this activates and gets the extra 15,000 shield, so it becomes a 25k shield. Reason we changed from doing 2 of the crit one is because we now just have a lot of things in the meta that restand between Jejeweled, this deck, Leonore, Nirvana. Good amount of restand, but we also have a good amount of crits between also Jejeweled and Youthberg. So I like having one of the crit ones still in here as well. And I always advocate for 2 generics just to have the 15k shield in any situation. But I think this is going to be the main lineup I do from here on out as far as we're in the set 13 meta, just because there's a lot of decks that both get crits and can restand. So 1 of each of those. And then still doing the blue OT. Blue OT I think is still just the best in this deck for being able to put a Bastion or something else that you need from your drop zone back into your hand. Getting the crit, you know, just extra 9 crits now in the deck because of this certainly is nothing to sneeze at. So I like it best in this deck. Now that's the 46 card deck. At the time of recording this, the update isn't live, so technically it is not legal to run the 50 cards, so that's what it is for 46 cards. But I will tell you, because with this deck, I'm pretty set on what my 50 is going to be, or my extra 4 cards are, and that is kind of the 2 MVPs I had from the set 12 list, which is Topaz, the 12k, or the 12k, the set 12 generic triple rare, the one that was if you put the 2 ride line cards back into the ride line face up, you can either check the top 5 to call if placed on rear guard, or as a 15k plus shield if placed on the guardian circle. So 20k shield or check the top to call. Great utility card, only 2 of it because obviously you have a limited number of ride line things that can go back to the ride line, so only 2. But then I'm going back to running the Dalibri. This was the on-hit search top 7 for Bastions. I really like this for the on-hit pressure that it brings and is able to just keep making your opponent would normally take a lot of your rear guard swings, especially before they have drive checks. Now they're less inclined to do that because this is going to search for a Bastion for me. I like that, and what's consistently keeping the Bastions in my hand. I found there's been a couple of times without him that I haven't had Bastion, and I like the on-hit pressure to force the guard. So these is pretty definite for me. This is what's going to be my extra 4 cards when the update happens. But for the 46 was what you saw. And then when we have 4 more spots, these are the ones going in. So that's my update for you. I'm enjoying the deck. It's a lot of fun still. It feels much stronger now than it did, and not to say that it was bad by any stretch in set 12. It certainly was not, but right now it just feels complete. We have the promo that we desperately needed is here now. It's opened up a lot of things for us. We have a lot more counterblast to work with, so we can run the full amount of ons, we can run form up. So this deck really just feels like it's in its final form and is complete now that we have the Owl. So similar to Nirvana, if this is the last of Bastion, if this is where we're ending, certainly a high note. The deck is still very strong and I think can keep up with the big scary 3 of the set 13 meta, if not quite as good as those. But we'll see. I mean, we've already got confirmation that Magnolia is getting support in the Divine Z set, so there'll probably be Bastion support along the way at some point. Given how the anime works, it wouldn't shock me. So, but for right now, I think this is definitely the deck build that I'll be sticking with for the foreseeable future. And it means I get to keep my nice fancy FFR. Look at that, he's such a tiny boy. But yeah, that's what I gotta say for my update here. If you have any questions, shoot them in the comments and you'll be seeing us again soon. Thanks, bye.